Hi, writers. Today's question comes from Tess, who asks, how do I decide if my story should be written in single or multiple viewpoint? She's thinking specifically about young adult novels and if one option is better than the other for traditionally published stories. So let's tackle the broader question first. How do you decide on single versus multiple viewpoints? The short answer is that it really does depend on the story. Some of them will work better with one narrator and others need more than one. So when you're making this decision, let me give you some questions and factors for consideration. First of all, whose story are you telling? If it's about primarily one character and how they interact with others, view life, or evolve over time, then they should be the one telling it. Take the original Little House books as an example. Laura Ingalls Wilder interacted with lots of people in that series, but the stories weren't about Mary or Nellie Olson, thank goodness, or Pa. They were Laura's experiences told through her own particular viewpoint and perspective. On the other hand, a book like The Stand is about a lot of different characters in different locations, dealing with lots of big different things. As an epic, it makes sense that it is more than one character's story. So knowing who your story is really about, preferably before you start drafting, that's really important. Related to this is another question. Whose story do you want to tell? Because honestly, anybody could tell this story. And it's going to sound different. It's going to be a different story depending on who's telling it. But lots of different people could be telling your story. Our passion as authors carries onto the page. So if you have options about who could narrate and you're really excited about one or two particular characters' journeys, let them do it. See how it goes. You also want to think about character arc. Who will be undergoing a significant change and how important is it to the overall story? You might have multiple characters that change over time, but which of those evolutions will significantly impact the story? That's the person or the people that you want telling it. And then there's theme. If your story is exploring a certain message or idea, the main character is probably going to start out with a certain opinion or stance about the theme. And then over time, their position is going to be challenged. Very often, those challenges will come from other characters who believe different things about the theme. And the main character's interactions with them will allow him or her to consider other viewpoints. Now, this can happen with just one viewpoint character. You can show variations on a theme without giving secondary characters a microphone. If your story is more about the theme than it is about the characters, multiple viewpoints might help you explore it more deeply. Lastly, whatever you do, don't make this decision based on convenience. My first full novel was written from one character's perspective, but there were certain events where he wasn't present. So I made the rookie mistake of writing the whole story from his viewpoint and then throwing in a chapter here or there from a random secondary character. So many things wrong with that. If I had considered my story with the preceding factors in mind, I could have avoided that particular pothole. So learn from my mistakes. Now, when it comes to young adult novels, I don't believe publishers and agents are going to turn down a good story based on what perspective it's written from. We've all seen successful examples of young adult books that were written in first person and others that were told from multiple viewpoints. I think strong stories that are well written are going to find their way into print regardless of how many narrators there are. I also don't think the way you publish should figure largely into this decision. But I will say that there are more challenges with a multiple viewpoint story, which means they're harder to write well. So I would advise newer, less experienced authors to start with a single viewpoint story and study the art of writing from multiple perspectives before tackling that kind of story. If you're looking for an agent, research their acquisitions to see what kind of books they've taken on in the past. If they primarily acquire one particular kind of book when it comes to the number of narrators, maybe keep that in mind when you're deciding if they're a good fit for your project. For more information on viewpoints and narrators, you can see our video on differentiating between narrators and multiple viewpoint stories. And if you have more storytelling questions, just send them in. I'll be glad to tackle them. Happy writing.